Move over, Bran. Time for the real king to shine. Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 most epic Godzilla moments. Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're looking at our favorite moments from the Godzilla series, culled from every era of the franchise. With over 30 films, it's no wonder the Godzilla series has some standout moments. Also, you should probably be aware, spoiler alert. Number 10, the 1,000-Year Dragon. Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. Giant monsters all-out attack. So here's the thing about Mothra. Across her many film appearances, she has a tendency towards dying, usually by sacrificing herself for the greater good. The elaborately titled 2001 entry in the Godzilla series features one of her more dramatic moments of self-sacrifice, and one with a surprising beneficiary. In this installment, the normally evil King Ghidorah is on the side of good, helping Mothra and Baragon fight off an evil Godzilla. After falling in the epic final showdown, Mothra uses the last of her energy to power up Ghidorah, giving the so-called 1,000-Year Dragon a fighting chance. Way to take one for the team, Mothra.
1,000-Year-Old Dragon. King Ghidorah.
Number 9, Godzilla Kick. Godzilla vs Megalon. Let's be honest here, a lot of the classic Godzilla movies are pretty darn silly. And it's harder to think of a better example than this one, which sees Godzilla teaming up with a robot named Jet Jaguar. During the duo's epic battle with the giant insect Megalon, Godzilla employs some questionable fighting moves, not the least of which is this flying dropkick. We're not even going to try to explain the physics behind this move, and it's probably best to just go with it and enjoy the moment for how absurd it is. By this point, Godzilla was basically a giant green superhero, and while his antics may have been extraordinarily silly, they were also a lot of fun. Number 8, Super Mechagodzilla. Godzilla vs Mechagodzilla 2. Combining giant robots has been a part of Japanese pop culture almost as long as Godzilla, so it's no surprise that someone combined the two. After all, Godzilla has his own giant robot nemesis in the form of Mechagodzilla. And what do you do when that's not enough? Go bigger, that's what. After Mechagodzilla is bested by his scaly counterpart, it combines with a flying vehicle called Garuda to assume a more powerful form.
Sooper Mecha Gojira, 合体完了!
While the transformation sequence isn't as visually spectacular as most anime or Japanese tokusatsu shows, the added firepower this mechanical doppelganger obtains is nothing to scoff at.
Firing tranquilizer missiles.
Number 7, Godzilla's first appearance. Godzilla.
We call him Gojira.
Say what you will about the 2014 Godzilla, but this moment was pretty great. Unlike Roland Emmerich's poor attempt in '98, Gareth Edwards' gritty reboot plays it very coy with the titular monster, showing Godzilla and the enemy monsters as sparingly as possible to maximize the impact when they are on screen. This approach definitely works best for Godzilla's debut, which is about as epic as one could possibly hope for, with Godzilla emerging from the sea like a living natural disaster, and eventually coming face to face with the Muto to deliver an earth-shattering roar. Kinda like Godzilla's atomic kiss of death in the final showdown, this was one moment that was definitely worth waiting for. Number 6, Godzilla and Company vs King Ghidorah. Ghidorah, the three-headed monster.
どういうことなんです?
ゴジラとラドンとモスラと力を合わせることです.
Up until this point in the Godzilla franchise, the titular monster had been very firmly on the villain side of things. But as bad as Godzilla was, the three-headed space dragon known as King Ghidorah was worse. At least 3 times worse to be specific. This is why Ghidorah's appearance and subsequent attack on Earth prompted Godzilla to team up with his fellow kaiju for the very first time, leading to this massive showdown between the invading astro monster and Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan. While it may look kinda goofy by today's standards, this sequence was really a massive sea change for the Godzilla franchise, and by extension, kaiju films as a whole. Number 5. A grand entrance. Terror of Mechagodzilla. By the mid-70s, the Godzilla franchise had become a shadow of its former self, failing to bring in the kind of box office results the studio wanted. In an effort to revitalize the series, producers brought back director Ishiro Honda, who directed many of the early films. The results didn't quite work the way they wanted, and the film underperformed enough to put the series into temporary retirement. Still, the film has more artistic flair than many of its contemporaries, a clear sign of Honda's hand on the wheel. A great example of this is Godzilla's entrance to the film, complete with dramatic backlighting and the classic Akira Ifukube score. Number 4. Battle Royale. Destroy all monsters. The final battle in Ghidorah the three-headed monster may have been the first time Godzilla and friends battled together against the space dragon, but it was not the last. A kaiju battle royale to end them all. This entry in the franchise brought together an unprecedented number of monster combatants. It was basically the Avengers Endgame of its time, and it culminated in a massive showdown between Ghidorah and almost every kaiju that had been established at that point. In many ways, it's the absolute height of the 60s and 70s era Godzilla movies, with an emphasis on spectacle and over-the-top monster action. And really, what more could you ask for? Number 3. Godzilla vs. Zilla. Godzilla Final Wars. Like we said earlier, the 1998 Godzilla reboot by director Roland Emmerich was not great, to put it very mildly. Toho Studios, which produced the original films in Japan, evidently were not too happy either, as they began building up for the real Godzilla to get his fiery revenge on his American counterpart.
The New York attack was Godzilla, right? That's what all the American experts claim, but our guys here have doubts.
In the franchise's 2004 entry, Godzilla finally faces off against the intentionally poorly rendered CGI monster, now dubbed Zilla. Yeah, that's all it took to bring down this fish-loving, oversized iguana. Considering missiles killed him in the '98 film, it's no wonder Zilla didn't stand a chance against the king. Good riddance. Number 2. Godzilla Reborn. Godzilla vs. Destroya. This entry in the series was meant to be Godzilla's final curtain call, with the iconic monster dying when his internal nuclear reactor, because yes, Godzilla has one, melted down. But while Godzilla technically got a dramatic and moving death scene, you just can't keep a good monster down. The Heisei series of films, of which this movie is a part, heavily featured an infant Godzilla as well, who was there to witness the demise of his father. Absorbing the massive discharge of energy, the baby Godzilla quickly grew to full size, leading to this insanely dramatic final shot that capped off the Heisei series on a serious high note. Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some monstrous honorable mentions. Number 1. Godzilla attacks Tokyo. Godzilla. Before he was a guardian of the Earth, Godzilla was first envisioned as a parable for nuclear proliferation and the lingering scars of World War II. No sequence in the franchise captures this better than Godzilla's first attack on Tokyo in the original film. After making his startling debut in the film, Godzilla goes on a rampage through Tokyo, one that draws on imagery like the firebombing of Tokyo and, of course, the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The result is a truly harrowing sequence that instantly made the film a cult classic, and one of the most important pieces of post-war Japanese cinema. The series may have become shallow spectacle later, but it started very differently. Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.